Hello, welcome to the Freedom from Anger podcast. I'm joined today with Luke Worsfold. He's also a podcaster, entrepreneur, addictions counselor. His podcast is called Inside Addiction, and he hails from England. So I'm really excited to have him on today. How you doing today, Luke?
Awesome, awesome. Thanks very much for having me on the show.
And thanks for having me on your show a couple weeks ago. So hopefully, I brought some information to your audience. I don't know if
Yeah,
it's
it was
posted
awesome to
yet or
have
not.
you on the show. It was an absolute pleasure. Yeah, it's a pleasure to have you on the show. Had a really good conversation.
Good, good. All right. So tell us a little bit about yourself. How did you get into the addiction field, and what brought you to do a podcast on addiction?
Yeah. So for me, my own story start, I guess, with my mum in many ways. You know, she drank and used drugs when I was growing up and since I was born. And I was born premature because she drank and used drugs. And ever since I was a baby, I was surrounded by that environment, you know, up until the age of 10 years old. I was growing up with mum, not always being absent and finding it challenging. And then when I was 10, she passed away from drinking and using drugs. Her body just, in the end, just gave up. And as a 10-year-old kid, I didn't really know how to handle that. I didn't really know how to make sense of grief and trauma and sadness and all these things. And to be honest, I just kind of ripped out like anything that connected my head to my heart. I just sort of shut everything down, shut myself down emotionally, suppressed all of my emotions, and really just tried to get on with my life the best I could. And that was my coping mechanism, was just to numb out all my feelings. And that was further reinforced by when I was growing up. I had brothers that were 4 and 5 years older than me, and we all used to fight, right? Boys were with boys, we'd all just kind of beat each other up and mess around. And especially after mum passed away, we were just full of sadness and grief, but we didn't know that or did not intellectualize that or communicate that. So it just turned into anger. And then the anger was then directed at the people who were close to us, each other. And then because I was the youngest one of the three, I normally got the short end of the stick because I was the youngest and the smallest one. So we ended up fighting a lot, and I would also, get beaten up a lot. And that led me to a situation where I just felt kind of helpless growing up, you know, small and insignificant and helpless. And that just reinforced my sort of low sense of self that just got built throughout time. And then when I went to school, I started to have my first cigarette, my first joint, my first like alcoholic drink. And I started to discover these substances that would take away my emotions and numb any emotions that kind of seeped out from my shutdownness, and started to kind of help soothe some things. And that made things really, really difficult for me because it really started to plant a seed that these were in my life. And from the learned behavior from mum and growing up in that environment, it just kind of kept getting reinforced that this was a positive thing with my brothers in my life. And it just continued on when I made friends who also drank and did drugs as well. And that led all the way up to the point where I ended up starting my own company after I left school. I ran my own web design and marketing company. And the culture there was very much drinking and doing drugs and celebrating for all the successes, celebrating for all the clients. And that's when things really escalated and things got to a point where it all came crashing down. But that, my own personal experience, is some of what led me to go into this industry eventually, is my own personal story.
Yeah, all too often it seems alcohol and drugs is always tied to different events, and this is how you're supposed to celebrate, and there's no other option, and it can escalate very quickly when you're surrounded by that environment.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. And that's what it was for me. It really escalated. And I was in that environment, like I say, where we'd all go out and celebrate and just drink and use drugs together. And it just got worse and worse and worse. And it got to the point where I ended up losing the company because we spent money on drugs and on drinking. And the company actually went under, and I lost the whole company, and it was thousands of pounds in debt because the company just couldn't survive. And it was at that point where I was at my rock bottom that I decided to reach out for help. And I went to a few meetings, but what really worked for me was when I found like an addiction specialist therapist who really helped work with me for a number of years, helped me get my life back on track and sort things out.
So, say you went to meetings, did you attend, like, AA meetings, or was that
Yeah, so I
kinda how
went
you
to,
got started?
yeah, I tried a few different ones. I went to AA, I went to NA, And then I also tried some Al-Anon meetings because my mum was an alcoholic, so I tried some Al-Anon meetings as well, and I found them useful. I found them good. Yes, I did find it a bit hard to connect with the whole higher power thing, but I enjoyed being in rooms where people were similar to me and really had that same camaraderie. But for me, some of the limitations of the 12 steps was they just didn't seem to go deep enough in like a psychological way. I felt like I had a lot in my life and I really needed like a therapist to really dive deep with me into my subconscious and into my mind and into all my trauma and really work out all of that stuff, which I wasn't quite getting from the rooms.
How long into your recovery before you realized, "Hey, I need to see a specialist?"
Yeah, I think it was straight away. I decided if I'm going to get help, I need to have just like throw the kitchen sink at it, right? Just throw everything at it. So it was all very, very quickly. I remember one of the most pivotal moments I'll share with you, James, was I was sitting on a park bench, after a heavy night of drinking and doing coke, and I was taking the last few drags of a joint. And I remember being there and calling through my phone of loads of different numbers of people who had either manipulated to lend me more money to keep doing drugs. And I was running out of people. There wasn't many people left in my phone book that I could call. And to be honest, it felt like in that moment I had one number left. And this guy was a friend of mine, a good mentor, and had been through his own journey of recovery. And I didn't want to call him, but I decided I'm going to press call. I'm desperate. I've got nothing left. Maybe he'll lend me some money. So I pressed call and he answered the phone. As I tried to bullshit my way through the call, James, he cut me off with a sentence that just changed my life forever. And he said, "Luke, you're a crackhead." And although I'd never smoked crack, at that point, it just pierced all my denial. I thought, oh, I'm still kind of functioning. I'm just, drinking and doing coke and smoking weed. I'm not as bad as a crackhead. I'm not that bad. I haven't got that far yet. But really, in that moment, it just pierced all that denial. And I was like, oh my God, I am an addict. I'm heading towards death just like my mum. I'm going to end up dead from drinking and doing drugs. And that was the moment I decided to go to therapy and go to meetings and read books and listen to personal development, seminars and podcasts and all that stuff. And really, James, I just immersed myself in that whole world and just went full force because I decided I'm not going to die like this. Mum's life, it wasn't an example. Her death was the lesson. It was a lesson of what not to do. And I really understood that in that moment. That really propelled me forward to go to therapy and work on myself and go to meetings and just really run in that positive direction.
Yeah, a lot of people that I've worked with over the years, that's an area that they have trouble with is they don't fully immerse themselves. They kind of tiptoe around it and they don't really dedicate the time and put in the work that really needs to be done and how you approach this is all or nothing.
Yeah, and I want to say that is very like addict fashion, right? All or nothing. I don't want a little bit of personal development. I don't want a little bit of therapy. I want it all. I want the whole line of coke. I don't want a little bit. I want everything. And yes, that is kind of black and white addict thinking, but I feel like that's definitely an acceptable place to put it. To put all that energy and creativity and again sales techniques and manipulating people to give me money to do drugs, but all of that energy and resources and creativity and focus into the positive, to find money for therapy, to pay for it privately, to find money for personal development, to find the time to put all of those resources into the positive route and go all in. I mean, for me, it did really feel like life or death, right? I was just heading towards death and, I definitely found it challenging and decided I'm going to decide to live and I'm going to live a different way and become my best self.
Yeah, and like you said, we tend to make an addict usually is gonna make excuses. He's gonna, "Well, I don't do that drug, so I'm not as bad as that person," or, "I don't do hard drugs," but an addict's an addict, regardless of whether it's a beer or, like you said, crack cocaine or or whatever. An addict's an addict.
Yeah, I completely agree. And that's why my friend's comment had such cut through when he said, Luke, you're a crackhead, because it just cut through all of my denial, all of that comparison. I'm not as bad as that guy. Just cut through all of it and was like a big slap in the face and really woke me up to the whole situation, all of the damage and destruction and depths I'd fallen into. Just really woke me up to that and lit a big fire under my arse to get going and sort out my life.
Yeah, and it's It's amazing how, like you said, that one sentence kinda cut through all the BS and, and a lot of people, if you're friends with an addict, a lot of times that people are not gonna say something like that. They're just gonna try to ignore it and ignore you, but, I mean, luckily, he answered the he answered the phone because 'cause I'm sure on the other end, he probably knew what was going on.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, 100%.
But yeah, I mean, it's great that you took that rock bottom and you're using it to, of course, help yourself, but also help other people. So tell us a little bit about your podcast. When did that start?
Yeah, so in terms of the podcast, I was going into uni. So as I was going through my recovery journey in therapy, my therapist really, really helped me and really helped me so much that I wanted to actually go on my own path to help people in the same way. I felt like if my mum had been through this, I had been through it, I really wanted to help people. So I decided to go to university as a mature student and study to become a counsellor. And along that journey, as I was studying to become a counsellor, I thought I really want to set up a podcast, right? To interview people, to talk to people. There was a really good way to talk to and reach people I wouldn't normally get to reach. So it was really, really interesting to be able to do that and to be able to really find people and have those conversations, have some amazing conversations. So it was in, I think it was like 2016, 2017, somewhere around there. I decided to start it. And really that was to support my education and to help people and get better messages out there. It's been an amazing journey ever since. Like you said, you were on the podcast the other day, which I'm sure by the time this launches, the other one will, so they can go over to my podcast and listen to you on there. And yeah, it's just been a really amazing journey listening to so many stories, learning a lot about all of the different modalities of therapy, all the different ways people can find help for addiction, all the different opinions. And I think one thing I've learned, James, is that there's no right way. There's no right way for recovery. Everyone finds their own route, their own journey, whether that's meeting, therapy, rehab, just white knuckling it, whatever it may be, religion. You can choose your own route or you can choose all of them. That's the best thing, right? You don't have to just choose one. You can go to rehab and do meetings and have therapy and read books and learn stuff. Like there's just so many and listen to podcasts. There's so many different ways. And it's really about people finding their own way. Because yeah, there is just so many different therapeutic modalities and different ways to find support out there.
Yeah, I totally agree. I know you don't tell how many times that I've had a client and then like day one, they're like, tell me what to do. And it's like, well, if I knew an A, B, or C route that would make everybody sober, then I'd be a millionaire. I'd be on the beach somewhere. I said, you have to figure out what's going to work for you because it's not a cookie cutter thing,
Yeah, yeah,
because
and I mean, what works? Yeah, like you say, go ahead.
yeah, and what works for one person might not work for the next person, and it's because I wanna if I had a nickel every time somebody was, like I said, day one, tell me what to do. Like, I can't. Like, well, that's the reason I'm coming to you. You're supposed to help yeah, I can help you, but you have to figure it out for yourself.
Yeah, yeah, and one of the big common trends that I see in a lot of the clients I work with is that they want to moderate their drinking. You know, they're drinking too much or they're using too many drugs and they want to moderate. They don't want to abstain. They don't want to stop forever. If you say the word forever, they're going to run 1,000 miles. They never want to hear, I'm never going to drink again or I'm never going to use drugs again. And they want to moderate. And I think it's hard to sit with that sometimes because you have to allow them to go on their own journey. You have to allow them to normally say, yeah, that's fine. You can moderate. I allow them to go out, to moderate, to go to a few different social events, to go to a few different occasions. Then over the weeks they come back and they're like, Luke, I can't really moderate, can I? You know, I'm just using or drinking the same as I was before. And I'm like, yeah, that's the way that it works. And they're like, maybe I should stop all completely. And I'm like, yeah, maybe that's a good idea. And over time they slowly learn and they're like, it's a good idea just to completely abstain. And that's just the journey we have to go on. That's the journey I went on. And over time, I just stopped and that was it. And that's what a lot of clients do over time. They realize, no, I can't moderate. You know, I am, addicted to this and it is difficult for me. So they decide to abstain over time. And that's really, really helpful because even in my own journey, when I was getting my drinking and drug use under control, I definitely tried to moderate certain things. I was like, oh, I'll stop doing coke and I'll stop drinking, but I'm going to still smoke weed. And then that didn't work very well because I was still smoking weed and that was causing me problems. I was like, I need to stop smoking weed. And I slowly kind of got down every single drug to eventually I was just smoking cigarettes. And that was when I was at uni, actually, I was still smoking cigarettes. And I was like, Luke, you need to stop smoking cigarettes as well. It's not healthy for you. Have bad lungs anyway. So I just decided, Luke, you've got to stop smoking cigarettes. And now, yeah, I've been sober for many, many years and just slowly kind of cut everything out of my life. But I think it's a journey you have to go on and it's kind of individual, although there's definitely patterns that everyone goes through. It's definitely an individual journey for everyone that they go on.
Yeah, I totally agree, and you hear it all the time about the moderation. "Oh, I'll just use on the weekends." I was like, "Well, that's fine, but that weekend will turn into, oh, well, I'll just use them Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and then it's Tuesday, then Wednesday, and Thursday." And it's how many times, like you said, they come in like, "Yeah, I can't moderate, can I?" And it's like, "No."
Yeah,
But,
and sometimes that's just the way it goes.
yeah, yeah, and unfortunately, when you're in this field long enough, you're gonna have people that you've worked with that unfortunately don't make it, and especially, I know over here in the United States, a lot of drugs are laced with and it seems like they're coming out with some new drug like every month, and unfortunately, we're losing a lot of people to that. And I've lost friends of mine to that stuff, and I've lost people that I worked with to try to get clean and sober, but unfortunately, can't do it for them. It's a decision they have to make, and it's I don't know, I didn't know if you ever, like, experienced that, like, one of your former clients.
Yeah, so for me, I definitely have clients that drift off and that don't engage and don't come back and just go out there. And sometimes it's hard not to necessarily know the endings. I feel like in a lot of the work I do, the client comes in, they talk to me for a few sessions, and then they just kind of drift off. And then you don't really hear much else. I don't really know what happened to them, if they succeeded, if they didn't. It's sometimes hard. Yes, I definitely have clients who I do work long term with over multiple years, and they check in with me every like 6 months or 12 months, and like I'm doing really well, and that's really, really grateful. And they leave great reviews. Definitely have loads of the positive, but there's definitely the negative side as well, where I say it's just like cliffhangers, lots of cliffhangers. You just never know. Did they make it? Did they not make it? Where did they go? Could I have done something better? What else could I have done? And you just kind of toss and turn a bit sometimes. It's definitely challenging and takes its toll. And I guess that's why I do my best to show up the best I can with every single client I work with. And also why I wanted to be in an industry that really fulfills me for the work that I do. When I ran my web design company and, just built websites so people could sell more cupcakes, I was like, Luke, I don't give a shit if anyone sells more cupcakes. Like, I just don't care if you buy any more cupcakes. Whereas now I feel that fulfillment and that drive and that motivation. I'm like, I'm making the extra phone call to check on the client. I'm actually pushing that extra bit more. I'm waking up. I'm getting on with things. I'm being more focused. I have that deep motivation and fulfillment and drive that goes into the work I do to help clients. But and that comes with that what comes with that is the pros of seeing all the benefits, but also some of the challenges when clients drift off and you don't get to know how those endings turn out.
Yeah, yeah, it can be a thankless job at times,
Yeah,
and like you said, when they drift off, you really don't know, or usually if you hear about somebody, it's usually bad news. You're hearing about it through somebody else, and you're really not sure if the information is correct or not. But yeah, it's definitely an interesting field to get into. It does and can take a toll on you, so definitely we have to practice what we preach, and self-care and all those type of things, which I've definitely been guilty of not doing that and getting burnt out and losing motivation, and it all boils down to
yeah,
me just not taking care of myself, trying to, help the world, but not help myself.
yeah, yeah, exactly. And I think a lot of us who work in this profession are in recovery ourselves for the most part. From my experience, I'd say like the majority of people have been affected by addiction from like a family member or a loved one, or they're in recovery themselves. And oftentimes, in my own experience, like I'm a wounded healer in a sense. So I've been through my own trauma, my own journey, my own addiction, and I'm helping other people. So, like I said, that self care is so important to have. And there have been times when I have seen too many clients and I've kind of burnt out or had compassion fatigue and just found it really challenging to manage the caseload and help people and just being too giving, and that is difficult. But I think over time and in my experience of working in the industry for many, many years now, I've definitely developed boundaries and, a lot more resilience and also the self-care. And I have my own therapy to this day, which I really enjoy, which is helpful. Have my own supervision where I talk to a counsellor who's more experienced than me, who helped me make challenges and deal with some of the stuff and guide me a bit on with clients. I also, for me, enjoy journaling. Journaling is one big thing in my life that I really, really enjoy. Also exercise. I enjoy loads of extreme sports and going to the gym and maintaining my own recovery. And meditation is something I value a lot. Sometimes it slips by the wayside, but it's definitely something I value and something that I always aspire to get back on track with. So yeah, I think my own self-care is something I do take seriously. My own mental health is something I work on. And just having little hobbies that I enjoy and little acts of self-love. It could even be making myself a lovely meal and cooking myself a lovely meal. I really enjoy cooking and I really enjoy making food and eating nice food and cooking a nice meal. So even the little things, just enjoying things. But self-care is so important for everyone in the world and not all the clients and also us as practitioners.
Yeah, I totally agree, and I'd say the vast majority of people that I've worked with over the years, that's an area that they definitely lack, and they're wondering why they feeling so stressed out and upset, and it's the fact that they don't slow down, and the only way for them to quote unquote relax is to use something, but they don't really stop and look. Okay, well, why am I feeling this way? Why do I feel the need to have to relax using this substance? And like I tell them all the time is, recovery in life is not as near as complicated as we make it. We try to overcomplicate complicate things. So, and I always tell them, what makes you happy? What do you enjoy doing? Try to use that energy that you're using to try to score drugs and that money you're spending and all this thing, use that energy and try to put it into something that you enjoy.
Yeah.
And and unfortunately, a lot of them, they're just that is the only thing they enjoy, and they haven't really taken the time to examine themselves.
Yeah. And I think it's really important to examine yourself and see what things you enjoy. I mean, one of the exercises through is to bucket list some of the things they want to do, what are some of the things they enjoy, what hobbies they enjoy, whether that's golf or whether that's, playing football or swimming or the gym or what are those things that they really value in life. Because oftentimes they're uncalibrated, right? Their lifestyle is out of whack and they're focusing too much on the quick fixes, the drinking and the drugs, and they need to rebalance their attention and their focus to focus more on things that fulfill them and that really benefit them and help them. And I think, yeah, hobbies are really, really important ways to blow off steam. And I split it into main categories really and I put it under the umbrella of meditation, right? So you have like a static meditation, which I would say is when you sit there for 10 minutes a day, you put headphones in your ears and you listen to say like Headspace, Calm, or one of those apps, and you sit there and you meditate for 10 minutes a day and you just watch those thoughts go by in your mind, become more of a observer in your mind. And that's really, really helpful. And that's a really, really good practice for static meditation. But there's also active meditation. And for me, this is something like when you're going to kick a football in the net, right? And all your mind is focusing on is the ball going in the net. You're not thinking about drugs or work or food or any of that stuff. You're just completely present in the moment. So whenever you're doing an activity that really commands your presence, I would put that under the umbrella of an active meditation. And that's what I get clients to do, the static and the active. And for me, some of those things is playing golf or going for walks or riding my bike or going snowboarding. All of those things are things I really, really enjoy. When I go snowboarding, either in London in one of those big snow domes, or if I go away to the Alps, to France or something, I'm going in January actually to France. So I go somewhere like that and it's just me in the mountain. I don't have any phone signal or a phone and it's just me on that big vastness, just being present in the moment. That's a time when I really enjoy. Or oftentimes I'll go out on my bike and go for a bike ride and I'll focus my attention on the present moment on my legs going round or focusing on what's going on. And that really helps me quiet the mind, not think about work. And a lot of those friends as well, they don't know about therapy and business and all this stuff. So I just talk to them about different things, about BMXing and riding my bike and just fun stuff that just lets me have the pressure off and just takes the pressure off. So really having a more balanced life and areas in life where we really can just blow off steam is really important. It's not like you have all of these emotions and you numb them with drugs and drink, and then you stop the drugs and drink, and then you still have all these emotions, and then you're just sitting with them all. That's just called hell. You don't want to be in that position, right? You don't want to just be naked with all of the emotions in your life. You want to be in a position where rather than changing the way you feel, you learn to soothe your emotions in a healthy way. And that's what I'm talking about, doing one of these active meditations or the static meditation to recognize the emotion, to feel the emotion and soothe it and go for a bike ride, do a journal, do a meditation, calm yourself down and really reset your nervous system. And eventually the emotion will be like a big wave. It'll come up. You won't spontaneously combust or explode or die. It's okay to feel a feeling. And then eventually it'll just go down and you'll go down and the emotion will pass. And that's okay. And that's how you learn to feel your emotions. And for me, feeling my emotions was completely foreign. Right? I grew up in an environment where I firstly ripped out all of my emotions according to myself when my mum died. Then I just shut them all down when I grew up with my brothers and through school, just shut down everything emotionally. So it was really a big challenge for me to start to feel them again and regulate them again once I'd stopped using drugs and drinking and numbing them for all those years. That's one of the things my therapist said to me. She said, the best thing about recovery is you get your feelings back, and the worst thing about recovery is you get your feelings back. And really learning to, process those feelings is a journey and something I aspire to do. I'm not perfect. I'm not Buddha. It's not like I never get triggered or I never get upset, but I don't turn to drink and drugs. I'm much better in the here and now, feeling my emotions and processing them using healthy tools rather than just numbing them and trying to change the way I feel with some kind of substance.
Oh yeah, definitely. I feel that unfortunately there's still a stigma around therapy, and I know men we're socialized to try to take care of everybody and everything, and don't ever ask for help. And unfortunately, we do turn to alcohol and drugs because we don't seek out help. We don't allow ourselves to have the emotions. We're human. We have we have emotions, but like you said, you just try to numb them or ignore them.
And whether you like it or not, they're there. Whether you're a man or not, they're still there, right? Whether you're a human being. Yes, as a man, you know, you have the societal pressures of, manning up and getting on with it. And I know that you have experience in the Marines and stuff, so, or in the army. So, that is also reinforced in that culture as well. But just men in general really kind of being sort of having that pressure to man up and just get on with stuff. But at the same time, being vulnerable and feeling your emotions is really important because if you don't, the emotions still come out sideways somewhere, whether that's anger or whether that's, frustration, the emotions still come out and they seep out. And that's really, really toxic to just allow them to seep out or just to keep numbing them with drink or drugs. It's important to feel them and process them in a healthy way. And that doesn't make you any less of a man. In my experience, it makes me actually connect a lot more to the people around me and to, especially with women and my partner and other people in my life, connecting with them in ways I never could have connected with them if I was drinking and using drugs. I've had a deeper level of emotional connection than I've ever experienced as a result of being clean and sober and being able to feel the good and the bad. Because yes, when you're using and drinking, you feel a lot of the kind of endorphins in your brain and you feel lots of pleasure and you're pressing that button, whether that's drugs or sex or whatever it may be, you're pressing the button of pleasure and you're having these really big highs and these really low lows and you're just binging up and down on this merry-go-round, just flooding your brain with endorphins. But what you don't have is much fulfillment. So what I say to clients is to try and go from the pleasure continuum where you go up and down, ping, 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 to more of like a long wave where you don't have some big high. I can tell you right now, me going to play golf and doing a journal and having a movie night with my girlfriend is not the same level of endorphins in my brain as going and doing loads of coke and all of that crazy stuff and drinking loads and being on some crazy night out, that's not the same level of endorphins. But what it means is I'm in more of a wave of fulfillment where I'm going up a little bit. I'm fulfilled, I'm happy. And then, some days are a bit sadder. They are a bit more down. They are a bit challenging. The rain and the clouds do come in sometimes. And then sometimes it goes back up again. And it's more of like a long-term wave over my life. And it's more the kind of fulfillment continuum rather than just the pleasure continuum of just pinging up and down and up and down and up and down. And that fulfillment is so much better in my life to feel fulfilled and to have the happiness and to have that kind of deep inner connection with the people around me rather than just always being like a rat in a cage pressing that button to just get another hit of Coke, another hit of Coke, another hit of Coke, or whatever it may be.
Yeah, that's what I tell people all the time. It's okay to be okay. It's okay to have that feeling of just being content. You ain't got to be sky high. Everything's great and wonderful, and it ain't got to be down low in the dumps. Just finding that baseline of, hey, if everything's going okay, it's not great, it's not bad, it's just okay. There's nothing wrong with that. That's kind of what we're always trying to strive to get to, because we
Yeah,
have those big dips, get low, then, "Hey, how can I get back up here? Hey, let's go get high." Then I'm up here, then I come crashing back down, and then, like you said, it's that pinging back and forth, up and down. Alrighty, well, I think it's a good place to stop. Thank you so much for being on. I'll definitely put a link to your podcast, and when I post this, it'll go out on social media and all that good stuff. And yeah, so please check out the Inside Addiction podcast. So thank you so much for being on, Luke.
thanks very much, James. It's been a pleasure.